Hello fellow builders, it's great to have you back for another video from our Let's Play series, Twisted Dunes on the Oasis map. I'm your builder, New Build Cities, NBC for short, and we built this cargo airport last episode using the Airports DLC. So in today's episode I'd like to rebuild the passenger airport using the Airports DLC as well. I had built a passenger airport with the Airports DLC when it first came out, but I'm just not that happy with it. So I'd like to rebuild this airport and combine it with the cargo airport so we benefit from the attractiveness from the cargo airport props and stuff. So let's get started. So basically what I want to do is go ahead and blow up everything and start pretty much from scratch. I really like the general concept of the airport that I originally built. It used the different terminal styles, the classic, modern, and ultra modern, to illustrate the growth of the city and the growth of the airport as the city grew. So I want to keep that theme and that idea. So on the right side of the airport, along the tile edge near this body of water, I'm going to use the classic airport style terminal and use a couple of the small airplane stands, maybe 4 to 6, to represent the original portion of the airport, maybe when the city was, say, 20,000 citizens, and you could use this airport to make local flights in the area and get to other airports that could maybe take you internationally or across country. And with that, we'll have a smaller runway to handle those planes. Then as the city grew, maybe got to 40 or 60,000 citizens, and we'll use the modern airport style to kind of tell the story of the expansion of the airport as the city expanded. Maybe the city got more attractions, more desirable locations for tourists, so that was opened up so now the airport could serve farther distances and accommodate more visitors. So around the big triangular terminal piece, we'll have maybe 3 or 4 large airport stands, and those will accommodate larger international flights, and then we'll add another runway that's a little bit longer for those planes. And once again, that piece will kind of show the growth of the city, maybe in that 60 to 70,000 range. And then finally we use the ultra modern airport style for our airport, metro, and train station to kind of illustrate, well, now that we got this big airport and it's been bustling and expanding and accommodate more and more visitors both leaving and coming to the city, the final kind of stage of the airport was to upgrade the transit to make it easier for passengers to get in and out of the city from the airport. And that's the main idea of this airport, to kind of tell a story of the city's expansion and growth through the growth of the airport. And as I'm building the airport, I guess we can discuss maybe some of the pros and cons of the Airports DLC. I've been getting that question a lot during the live stream, especially when the Airport DLC first came out into January, early February. People were asking my opinion, what I thought about the Airports DLC. So I'm going to go ahead and give you a couple pros and a couple cons, and then you can of course make the decision whether or not it's right for you to make the purchase. Let's start off with some of the cons or issues that I see with the Airports DLC first. That way we can finish it on a good note with some of the pros and the benefits of the Airports DLC. So probably the first one and most noticeable issue with the Airports DLC is there's a bug with the Taxiway that's been causing major impact to performance on console. Maybe not so much on PlayStation 5 and new Xbox, but definitely on PlayStation 4, what I'm playing on. Now PC has been patched to fix the performance issue back in March 2022. As of right now it's June 2022 and console hasn't received any patch yet. There's a word that they're working on it, so this issue could go away. But at least as of right now, your performance on your PlayStation last generation consoles is going to be destroyed by the Airports DLC. The next big issue that I see with the Airports DLC is it's huge, which isn't necessarily a bad thing in and of itself, but on console we only have 9 tiles, right? And as you know, I always say real estate's a premium on console, so it's hard to justify building this gorgeous, big, beautiful airport that takes up an entire tile, leaving you only 8 tiles to build, which can end up resulting in having this huge monstrous airport for this small city. So it could look a little disproportionate. It's a shame they didn't give us a 10th tile at least as a bare minimum. But of course I think they should unlock 16 and 25. The third thing about the Airports DLC that's kind of lackluster is it's not really much to manage. I mean, you kind of build it and you're done. I mean, the same thing could be said for a campus, a park, industries DLC. So it might not necessarily be that much different than any other DLC that you purchased. If you've gotten really good at, say, building industries DLC or making a campus and that kind of stuff, it just seems like you like I said, you build the airport and you're kind of done. It does add, a few hours extra to your gameplay. And then the fourth thing I would say is a little bit of a pain with the airports DLC is the fact that the cargo airport terminal is linked to the passenger airport. So you need to level a passenger airport to level 3 before you unlock the cargo airport terminal, which is dumb to me. I kind of mentioned it in the last video. It's analogous to having to level your city park to 5 stars just to place a zoo. Or you can place the liberal arts campus down. Has nothing to do with the trade school. And probably the last thing that's a pain with the airports DLC, this one's kind of a mixed bag, is the airport painting tool. Has a built-in leveling and like deforestation mechanism with it. So when you first use it, the first piece of land that you touch when you go to paint your airport, the rest of the airport's going to be leveled to that. And like I said, it's going to remove all the trees, which can be good. And it's actually one of the pros as well. But it can be a pain if you're trying to do like we're going to do here today, which is basically extend the passenger airport zoning all the way down to the cargo airport. We include all those like hangars and planes and all that stuff as attractiveness. That'll allow us to raise the ticket price on our passenger airport while still maintaining a very high level of attractiveness, which will keep people kind of coming and going. All right, well, that's about 5 kind of hits against the airports DLC. The biggest 2 are the size, because we only have 9 tiles. Nothing we can do about that. And the performance. If they fix the performance, that'll be great. If they gave us a couple more tiles or expanded the number of tiles we can have on console, that would be great. They keep saying you can't expand the tiles because of performance, but then they give us the airports DLC that completely destroys performance. So it's kind of like, well, you already screwed us up. Might as well just go from the tiles. Now let's get into the pros. I mean, the biggest one is you can build a custom airport. So not only do you have the ability to build a big, beautiful airport that takes up 9 tiles, if that's what you want to do, you can also build a nice, efficient, small airport, kind of like what we did with the cargo airport, and kind of what we're going to do with this one, that allows you to fit the airport in, like, we'll say, challenging geographies. You can place the runways where you want to place them. You can angle them relative to the terminal, how you want to angle them. You can determine the number of airplane stands, all that stuff. So if you have a map that's got difficult terrain, or maybe there's just areas of difficult terrain where you may have thought, I don't want to put an airport here, or you had to level a huge area and it looked like dumb because it's like all these big square, like cliff, all these big huge cliff things like right next to your airport. Now you don't necessarily have to do that. You can arrange your airport, get smaller or longer runways depending on the situation. So put number of stands down that you might need or not need. That can allow you to customize the airport so you can fit it in these tougher geographical locations like we are here. We've basically placed this airport kind of like in between 2 large hills, mountains, and I've spent some time and thought angling the runways so that way like the planes don't fly into the mountains and stuff like that, or at least they're far enough away that they can get the height that they need to get over them. So that's a really good benefit of it. The second really big benefit of an airport is if you build an efficient airport and you get like 2,500 passengers and the ticket prices are about $120 a piece or so, you can easily make $80,000 to $100,000 a week with an airport. So the airports DLC is a good way to make money if you build an efficient airport. The third big benefit is the cargo airport train station. That thing's a beast. It's awesome. It virtually eliminates the need to set up a transfer station when trying to segregate your internal line from your external line. And it gives you tons of options because it has the 2 tracks and the 2 loading bays. Some say there are some bugs with it on how it works, and admittedly I haven't spent a whole lot of time testing it and examining it to see like how the trains are moving. I do know that trains are loading and unloading at those stations, and like I said, they're really nice because you can set, since they have the 2 stations, we did with the airport at the cargo, you have one track that kind of goes, maybe runs east and west, the other one runs north and south, or maybe you have one track that's like an import track where you just let trains come in and import and then they just despawn, and the other track is an export track where they can just load up and leave and they don't come back. The fourth thing about the airport's DLC is it's $12 US. So depending on your financial situation, it's only $12. So you might just be like, whatever. Or you might be like, that $12 seems to be like a lot. So you might throw that in the cons. The fifth kind of benefit is you do get some new assets. You get new fencing, and the fencing looks great. It's a nice security fence. You get some of those hotels. You get some new different stations like the bus station, train, metro station, and you get the different, terminals and all that stuff, the concourse, I guess they call it. All that stuff you can use in unique ways outside of just building an airport. So it gives you, once again, some more tools in your tool belts to get more creative, just to build more interesting and unique things. And the last thing that's kind of a pro, and this was also in the cons, is the airport painting tool. So it's kind of a pain when you don't want it to do the leveling. It'll be cool if you could toggle that on or off. It is great to have that leveling and say deforestation built into the tool, because it allows you to quickly and easily level like a whole entire tile. Like if you just purchased a tile and you want it to be flat, just open up the airport's DLC, make a district, flatten the sucker all the way out, get rid of all the trees, then go ahead and go to the remove and just delete the district. When you're done, probably in a matter of less than a minute, you can completely level an entire tile. So that's my thoughts on the airport's DLC. You can take from it what you will and use that if you like to make the decision on whether or not you want to purchase it. If there's things that you think I might have missed, put them in the comments, because it might benefit other players who watch the video. And of course, that's just my opinion, so take that for what it's worth. And our airport's complete. It's looking good. I think it turned out really well. Added some fencing, some trees, and stuff like that. I mean, it's not 100% realistic to have trees like next to your runway, next to the planes, but I just wanted to add some vegetation just to bring some color and nice look to the airport. So I'm going to suspend the reality a little bit. I also added some pathing. We have a little stream that kind of trickles by the airport, as well as I added a substation to the airport. I mean, airports do consume a lot of power. Along our smaller runway, we have the aviation club, we have the 3 helicopter depots, the police, fire, and medical, as well as a couple hangars, a couple planes, and once again some more pathing, just to add to the airport, make it a little bit bigger. Got a couple water towers, some of the radio tower type stuff, just to kind of give it some height and some of those type of features. I added some buildings from our campus, so we have the maintenance building from the university in here. That looks kind of cool. Was in like a little maintenance building. So I just fenced off a spot in between the taxiways, added some rocks and kind of like low-lying type of vegetation, like the little bushes and stuff, just to kind of give a feel of like a water runoff location, keep the water off the runways and the taxiways. Let's take a look at the front of our airport. We got ourselves one of the monuments. I think that's the meteor. Use some of the organic local produce for the parking lot, fountain from our campus in here. Behind the airport, did some detailing, added some of the flower beds from the Park Life DLC, and some of the trees and stuff. I was going to try to keep the trees kind of low because it is an airport, but I wanted to add a little bit of vegetation. And we got some hangars and, like I said, this other planes and some of the fueling stuff. I really like how I got the assets on the end of the concourse. I mean, I got some of the radio towers and stuff. This looks kind of cool. And we have a couple of the city park stuff in here, the bathrooms and stuff like that. I think the information booth. Let's go ahead and take a look at our airport and see how it's doing. Our city at this point is at 84,000 citizens, 242 million, and we're getting about 2,000, we'll say 2,100 to 2,500 weekly passengers, where we have around roughly 71% usage of the seats. Most of the passengers are leaving, which is kind of weird. I don't know why that is. Not that many people are coming in. And our airport costs, it looks like 21 grand, and we're making, I would say somewhere around 100,000. Let's take a look at the taxiway just to see how everything's flowing. See, we have our first runway. It's a little bit smaller runway. They can get off the runway, come down and around to the right side of the small airplane stands, and then come back, get on the runway and leave. Or they could even come around and cross and get to the larger runway if they were to choose that option. They could also come down and kind of bypass that first turn to get to the left side of the small airplane stands, and then kind of come back and leave the runway. They could also come down the other way and make a loop down and around. Now from the large runway, they can kind of come across and come down and hit the large and medium plane stands. And then they can kind of come across again and come back down. And then from the large runway, you can kind of come on the left side of our more modern part of the airport and come down. And I guess if you wanted to, you could cross the runway, go all on the outside of the runway, and come back and hit the small runway from the left side where the medium and large planes are. But I don't know. I doubt the game's going to do that. So I feel like Taxiway's working decently. It's a little bit of a mess, but it seems like it's making sense to me at least. And I like the theme of the airport. We have on the right side the old part of the airport that uses the small runway. And then we have like kind of the newer part of the airport. It's got access to this larger runway. And we use the classic style to represent the older part of the airport. It's got a few of the small airport stands attached to that. And then we built out the next kind of piece of the airport and added the medium plane stands. There's 4 of those. And then as the population grew, we added this like triangular hub at the end that accommodates, I think, 3 large airplane stands, and it has the metro underneath. And that goes, of course, with the bigger runway. And then we have the ultra modern section of the airport where our metro and train stations are attached. You know, as the airport was busier and busier and made more and more money, we saved the money to expand the transit part of the airport to get people in and out of the city easier from the airport. And let's go ahead and take a look at the airport and see how it sits within the city here. Like I said before, this airport's kind of tucked in between 2 hills, and I tried to do a decent job of making sure the airports don't crash into the mountains. It's tucked up in a nice spot in the city. It's kind of away from the main body of the city, but it's also kind of central in a way to the city. So it does give good access for passengers to get in and out of the city. We got some great views up here. The airport kind of looks down on the main city. You know, with the 2 transit options, people are moving in and out pretty well. We have the airport train that runs down along kind of like the first couple tiles of our city, down to the multi-platform station here. And that looks nice. And there's a lot of commercial and things to do down there. As well as we have the metro that connects in 2 spots. It connects on where the train station is as well as where that terminal is. And both aren't moving a whole lot of people. So I thought about maybe getting rid of one, but whatever. I mean, it's just a little bit more track. So I figure I just keep it for now. So we do have one that goes to like that terminal. The other one comes down and it rides along the mountain. It looks really nice. And it's a nice scenic metro ride along this beautifully elevated track that goes along the mountainside. Some waterfalls underneath. And it rides along our multi-leveled retention wall that's holding back our mountain from our highway. And then that goes down into our downtown area. And of course, in the next couple episodes, we'll be building that out. Well, I think that wraps this episode up. The next episode, I believe we're going to be building a government center. I think that's going to turn out really nice. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and maybe it gives you some ideas of whether or not you want to purchase the airport's DLC, what you can do with it, maybe how to build an efficient money-generating airport. It looks hopefully pretty nice. And if you like what you see, always leave a comment. The comments are great. I read them all, and I always respond to them. I always appreciate them. Please leave a like. Of course, that always helps the channel out. And if you would like to become a member of our NBC family, I'd love to have you as a subscriber. I wish you mayors the best in your cities, and may you build the most magnificent cities that you can. And as always, happy building.